Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. This week's video is a little different. I finally finished this sketchbook and it's taken me about a year and a half to finish, so I thought it'd be fun to share what I've been working on in here, and just so you can see a little bit of my sort of behind the scenes process for a lot of my paintings. This sketchbook is a Strathmore mixed media sketchbook, which is really nice because you can put all sorts of mediums in here. I've worked in gouache and pen and pencil and colored pencil, all sorts of stuff in here, and the paper is really taken to all of those mediums well. So I think in the future I'll probably stick with this sketchbook brand when I start a new one. So with that, I guess I'll get started with the tour. So for this first painting, it's a self-portrait study done in gouache, and then I also added a few little blue strips of paper to give it some pop and covered it with pen. This next spread is, you might recognize it from one of my videos when I first started the sketchbook. It's a series of Italian landscapes done in gouache, and then it's also, I taped in a painting that I also did for another video of Monet's garden in Giverny. And this was the first painting that I ever did when I received my Miyahime Jelly gouache. Also, if you hear any background noise, I'm filming this outside and the road gets a little bit noisy, so I apologize for that. So yeah, that's this spread. All of these paintings are done in gouache. So yeah. So for this next spread, it's also a series of gouache studies. This first scene is just of some girls in a meadow, and then sort of keeping with the same theme, I worked on like a little meadow study with some colored flowers in the front. And then this painting you might also recognize from a video. It's from my Gen Crafts review. My friends over at Gen Crafts sent me some gouache to try out, and I did this little Ireland study and then just taped it in my sketchbook so I wouldn't lose it in my room. And I think like the last spread, these all kind of go together in theme. So this next spread is a little bit unfinished on the left. I'm an architecture student, so I do draw buildings quite a lot for class. So they don't appear as much in my sketchbook as much as they do in like my school sketchbooks, but I did a few like little building drawings of like Le Corbusier's building and then an Alfonso building here in Florida. The spread on the right is just a nice little koi pond that I found, and the original image was really nice and serene, so I thought I would try and capture that and practice some more of my gouache studies. Yeah, so at this point I was still pretty new with my Miyahime gouache, so I was just trying to really practice my value range, using blues and dark blacks and whites, just to see what I could achieve with these paints. So this next spread is a series of figure studies. I believe I started these with like a brown colored pencil, and then as I moved my way across, I decided to, bust out the gouache and see if I could paint in some of these figures. Definitely figure painting is a weak point for me because I spend a lot of my time doing, landscape painting, so this was a really good challenge, and I did do quite a bit more figure drawing in this sketchbook, but it's definitely something I want to bring more into my future sketchbooks and future paintings. So again, you might recognize this from a video. This was a series of movie stills that I copied, and I actually really do enjoy painting movie stills. I think they're a really great exercise to just, practice, values, composition. All of these compositions are taken from, iconic scenes of these movies. And so it was a really good way to just sort of like practice with the gouache, with arranging a piece, no pressure because it's in my sketchbook. So yeah, that's these studies. The four movies are Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Call Me by Your Name, The Sound of Music, and Moonlight. And these are some movies that I really enjoy, just the way they're shot, and I think they have a lot of painting applications in them. So this next spread on the left is a little gouache study of a nice little nook overlooking a garden. And then the paintings on the right are some Studio Ghibli studies. I love painting Studio Ghibli studies with my gouache set. Just the composition and the arrangement and animation is just fantastic. And I think any art student can, or anybody who enjoys art, can really learn a lot from watching Ghibli movies and sort of imitating Hayao Miyazaki's very iconic style. So this whole spread is all done in gouache. As usual, most of the things in the sketchbook are done in gouache. But yeah, it was a really good exercise to try out some different values, and just, mess around in my sketchbook with some images and cinematography that I really like. So this next spread is from my Meds 100 Heads challenge. I worked on a series of drawing 100 heads over 10 days. And like I mentioned earlier with my figure studies, I'm not the best at drawing portraits. I definitely spent a lot more time doing landscapes. Landscapes are what I first learned how to paint when I started painting. So I did try to devote some time in the sketchbook to developing portrait work. So doing these Meds 100 Heads challenge definitely helped. And if you're interested in, watching my process or hearing more about it, I did do a video on this as well. So I'll link that up on the top if you're interested in watching it. So for these first, I believe there's 20 heads on here. I could be wrong. It could be 15. I just did it with a regular pencil and just, went through pretty quickly. I think this was the first 2 days that I worked on this spread. Not much to say, just, following along with his challenge and trying my best to imitate the likeness of these portraits as I could. So the next spread is also a part of Meds 100 Heads. So for each spread, I tried to use a different medium just to, extend the challenge. So this one is all just blue ballpoint pen, just a regular plain ballpoint pen. And so I did this next series of portraits using that. This next spread is watercolor and colored pencil. It's again also from the Meds 100 Heads challenge. I don't use watercolor that frequently, but it was nice to sort of push myself to go there with portraits. And a lot of the heads that Almadodori chooses in his challenge are really difficult. So, having different mediums to try out painting them with was really fun. This next spread's a mix of ink and watercolor and colored pencil. I believe I used a sepia Strathmore or Royal and Langnickel. I can't remember what pen I was using, but some sepia tone, and I drew these in really quickly. And I believe I also challenged myself to not use any pencil lines, to just go straight in with the ink, and that was a good challenge. And then these again are more watercolor with colored pencil studies. So this entire spread is all sepia ink. Again, like the last ones, I believe I just went straight in, and I really tried to work on hatching and developing contrast with the hatching instead of relying on paint as I normally do, or colored pencil where you shade it in. So yeah, that was the next series of the heads from this challenge. So this next spread is also from the Meds 100 Heads challenge. On the left, I worked with colored pencil, and then on the right, I went back to gouache. This series of heads, again, was more about studying the color of the portraits. So from the Pinterest board that he posted, I tried to choose portraits that really dealt with color, and that's why I chose to do these with colored pencil and gouache. So these two are also from the Meds 100 Head challenge. I believe this was the last day, so I decided to do two really large size portraits of a young boy and an older man. Just, push myself in what I could do with gouache, and also to just, round up the challenge by doing a large scale version of all the other portraits that I have been working on. So this next spread is a series of hands. Hands are probably my least favorite thing to draw and paint, as most artists would say. So on the left, I started with, just pencil sketching. I believe I had started before and been absolutely not, I need to restart. And I pasted over it with some yellow paper and restarted. And then on the right, I started with, I think, pencil sketches as well. And I decided to go in with gouache just to see, what kind of values I could get with my gouache in painting hands. This next series is just a really quick sketch spread. In addition to, painting and architecture school, I do enjoy figure skating a lot. So I did a few quick little portraits of one of my favorite figure skaters, Gracie Gold. And then some of you might recognize which show this is from. I won't say it, but if you do recognize it, leave a little comment below, because this is definitely one of my favorite animated shows that I've ever watched. So yeah, I did a few quick little pen studies and just a blue ink pen of the characters from that show. So this next page is a little sketchy. I started with a gouache scene of, I believe it's a streetscape, and I want to say it's either Japan or South Korea. And then I also started a quick little like pen like study, and then I ended up not liking it, so I just pasted some sketches I did for class on top of it. I'm currently working on like a little skyscraper project in class, so sometimes some of these little random, really strange architectural sketches appear in here, and that's what those are for. And then this is just like a little doodle that I also worked on class. It's like a little like Japanese temple. So this next spread is also from a video. It's a series of Irish paintings, Irish landscapes. I'm originally from Ireland, so I have a lot of photography that I've taken, when I go home to visit family. So I use a lot of those as my reference photos for my bigger paintings, and then again with these little studies. And all these videos that I've done before of these spreads, I'll link them up in the card. So if at any point in the sketchbook tour you want to go watch the video for any of these, I'll have it all there for you. So this next spread is kind of a random, messy one, and sometimes they're like that in here. I just did a few like little portrait studies, and then I sometimes also like to do some like gesture drawing with like a brush ink pen. So for this, I just did some really quick figure drawing studies with a brush pen, and then I just pasted it on a random page. I think for class I had to like draw some birds or something. I don't know what it was for, some weird architecture project. Then like a little sketch from Jujutsu Kaisen, because I'd watched that show at that time. So yeah, really random spread, but that's sometimes how they are in here, so it's all good. So this next spread is, again, it's another picture or gouache study of a scene in Ireland. A few quick little sketches of some castle ruins, and in blue pen, and then a quick little, I think this is watercolor and pen study of another little castle. So this spread is all pen drawings of my sister's cat. He likes to pose. So I just sat there with my sketchbook and I drawed him as he like rolled around on the floor and like sat there and looked at me. And I believe I started with a pencil sketch because I can see some of my like really rough kind of gestural lines. And then I went in with like a pen and like hatched it in. This is some more figure studies. I believe I did these with watercolor. These are ballpoint pen, but these ones all look like they're watercolor. Yeah, just some figure studies. I do really love doing gesture drawings. I think they're really fun and free, and there's no pressure when you do them because they don't actually have to look like anything. So they're just a really good sort of warm-up exercise that I like to do sometimes before I sit down and work on a longer painting. So this is another little random spread, just a little gouache scene of a girl riding her bike, some random blue pen portraits, and then I also drew some capybaras. They're one of my favorite animals, so I was probably watching like National Geographic or something and decided to draw them. I can't really remember why I drew them, but they're here. And these are done in black ballpoint pen. I like to sketch a lot in pen just because like it forces me to not erase everything, and I think it's just really freeing to practice like hatching and stuff when you can't go back. Whatever you put down on the page is like what stays, so it's a good challenge. So these are some more portrait studies just done with different types of pen. Sometimes I like to just paste in sticky notes because pen you can't erase it, so if I like majorly go wrong, I'll just put the post-it note in and I'll just draw on top of it. And it also adds like a little pop of color every now and then to the spread. So this next study is a series of gouache paintings. Definitely painting landscapes with figures sort of spread throughout them is one of my favorite types of paintings to do. So this was a fun little exercise for some gouache paintings. So here's another little spread of some figure studies. I believe I was watching a video of somebody doing like a big kick, like a dancer, and I was just really quickly like going through and drawing them as they were dancing, and then like when they reach like the apex of their kick as they're like falling over. I just tried to capture that in these really, really quick like gesture studies. I feel like each of these was like 20-30 seconds. I try to keep all my gestures below like 45 seconds and below. So these were all really quick. And then I went in, I think, with like watercolor and just filled them in so you could kind of discern the shape a little bit better. So this next series of paintings is a little Christmas scene that I did. And then this other one is just, I think it's the meadow from Twilight. I did like a really quick study of it because Twilight's back on Netflix now. So I had like a little nostalgia moment and decided to paint the meadow from it. This is another really random unfinished spread. This is a Ghibli scene. I want to say it's from Ponyo. And then these are just some really random figure drawings that I did of some girls standing, and then I like filled it in with watercolor, and then I also just pasted in some random sketches of like portraits that I had done. And so I believe this one was like a blind contour exercise. Like I had done a few like blind contours when I was like in a lecture or something. So I just posted them all in here. This is an unfinished gouache painting of a Van Gogh piece. And then here just some more portrait studies done in blue pen. This is also from a video. I think the next few portrait spreads are from videos. And these are both done in gouache. They were just, doing some larger scale portrait studies with gouache, just to challenge myself to, go back to portraits after I'd completed the 100 heads challenge, just to keep up with my portrait studies. And like portraits are a really good way to practice like skin tone values. So these were, lots of fun to do with gouache. This is just a full spread watercolor scene done with gouache. And I believe it's also another scene of Ireland that I, captured really quickly on my phone when I was there. And then when I got home, I decided to paint it. These are some more portrait studies, just, really practicing value ranges. So I've got like a very like yellow range of portrait going over here with the purple tones because, they're complementary colors. So like sometimes when I do these big spreads in my sketchbook, I try to think of, how it look together as a composition. So if I'm going to do a portrait on one side, how can I complement it on the other side of my spread? Because even though a sketchbook is, there's lots of messy stuff that goes on in here, it is a good opportunity to practice composition and just try out new things. So this last painting is from my most recent video. It's just another gouache portrait study that I did really quick. And yeah, I was also done in gouache like most of the paintings in here. So this is the last page of the sketchbook. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed looking at some of the stuff that I worked on in here. It definitely took me quite a while to fill this up, but it's a sketchbook, so there's some days I work in it and there's some days that I don't, but it was all fun to work in and I'm really glad I got to share it with you all. So I'll see you all hopefully in another video really soon. Thank you.